Rumplestiltskin, and the Golden Cocoons. Hobgoblins and fairy folk often wanted to steal babies and replace them with their own. Rumplestiltskin had failed last time she saw him. On hearing his name, he had jumped up and down so hard that his small pointed right foot went straight through the wooden floor. He cursed them, and shouted, "This is not the end." The queen had never told her husband, the king, about the hobgoblin and making gold. She was still a prisoner locked in her room. The king continued to have great feasts and enjoyed spending the gold that they had produced. Soon it was all gone. The queen's father had not visited her for 2 weeks. "We have him safe and sound," said the king. "He's in the tower, and if you ever want to see him again you must spin more gold, so get to work." Soon 4 servants arrived at her chamber, with straw and a spinning wheel. This time there was no little man to help her spin gold. She was on her own and knew that she and her father would surely die. Meanwhile, Rumplestiltskin was now in town making mischief, pulling down stalls so that goods fell to the floor. He listened to what people were saying and heard her father had disappeared, and the king was broke. Rumplestiltskin thought this odd, so decided to climb up the thick ivy and enter the queen's room. She was crying. "The king wants more gold," she said. "Can you help? But I will not give you my child, I would rather die." Rumplestiltskin said, "I cannot magically weave any more straw, but let me think." And off he went. That night there was a tremendous storm, and the window flew open. In hopped Rumplestiltskin, soaked to the skin, carrying a large velvet bag. "Open the bag in the morning, but first throw all this straw out of the window." She did this the next day. She opened her bag, and to her horror a line of greenish-white caterpillars walked out in single file across the stone floor and onto the walls. She noticed some had started producing golden silk cocoons. She found she could pull off the golden silk from the ends and started to reel and spin this silk. The king came into the room. "Give that gold to one of the servants to make me a fine handkerchief." "Will you let my father go now?" she cried. "What? We've only just started. I need a gold waistcoat, so get spinning." The queen had saved up the inside pupae and put them under her bed. The next day in came 8 servants carrying huge bundles of straw. The queen now was in a panic. But she still threw the straw out of the window. 4 o'clock in the morning, Rumplestiltskin tapped on her window. "Grab this rope. Help me pull my sack up." A larger bag was pulled up. It contained even more moths inside this time. They both spun their golden cocoons. The king eventually came in. "Good," he said. "A splendid waistcoat for me. Next I need a fine, long gold cloak, so get spinning," and he left. The queen was in a terrible state now. The next day she heard shouting outside her door. 20 servants came in, each carrying even bigger bundles of straw which filled the whole room, covering even the baby. Was he mad? She thought. Who could deal with this? It took all night for her to throw the straw out of the window. Nearing dawn there was a tapping on the window. In came the hobgoblin, puffing and panting. "Pull up the rope," he ordered. The sack this time was huge. The cocoons were everywhere. Both started spinning, but Rumplestiltskin said, "After there will be no more gold silk. I'm sorry, so sorry." The king returned. "Great," he said. "Just right for my golden cloak." The day came when ambassadors from all the other realms arrived at the castle for a feast. The king put on his golden waistcoat and his golden cloak. At the feast, one large candlestick holding 3 candles was set on the table right next to the king. The king took out his huge golden handkerchief and waved it for all to see. It passed over a candle and caught light. He tried to put it out, then realized at once that his garments were not gold, as they too were burning. He screamed and ran out of the castle door, and with his cloak burning wildly jumped into the castle moat. The guests looked for him, but he had sunk deep into the dark waters of the moat, and was never seen again. The queen was now ruler and her father released. A few weeks later she entered the spinning room, and to her astonishment she saw thousands of beautiful moths flying around and around like a whirlwind. They flew in a long golden ribbon out of the window upwards into the sky. The queen sent for Rumplestiltskin, and granted him permission to live in the castle. He became great friends with her son as he grew up. They even did mischievous things together, much to the annoyance of the townspeople, but they were extremely happy, as was the queen.